So sorry about that. I don't know if you all are back, but I got disconnected since my laptop decided to reboot. I don't know why. Some crazy Microsoft updates, I guess. So, Judy, if you're back online, do let me know. I know I was answering some question of yours, which I've completely forgotten now. But yeah, the glazing continues. So when I am putting pieces out here, I'm also kind of arranging them based on size, so that when I go ahead to load up in the kiln, I can just pick one board up, because all similar size pieces go on the same shelf. And I have one board of extra mouse, which I don't really, I think they should all fit into this file. There's a whole bunch of these small dishes. So if any of you got the Patreon link, it's obviously not working, because that first link was for the first video I posted, but as you know, I do wonder if it's still showing this as what do you call it, a glazing video or something else, because sometimes it does not update the description. Let me just give it a quick look and see what you're seeing on Facebook. Okay, it's not. It's just seeing I'm live, which is fine, which I am, so. So I see some people are joining back, but I'm sorry if you were watching the previous live stream and got disconnected. Well, I got disconnected because my laptop just decided to randomly reboot. And all it gave me was a warning on the screen saying, your computer is going to reboot in less than a minute. And it just went for it. So that is all the gray pieces done. And like I said, the next glaze that I do after that is honey. Those pieces are right here. So I have these two trays. Those are a bunch of small dishes. You have to make sure I have some colored honey dishes as well, which were special order. Somebody wanted with a red wash on them. So you can always request these things when you are placing an order. And if it is not a very extreme thing that you need, I can usually include it. And these are some embroidery mugs with all going to get the honey glaze on it. Someone wanted 2 embroidery mugs. I'm making 4, so they will get their pick on which 2 they would like from this. It might make it difficult, and the ones with the grey tops, they are going to get the honey glaze at the bottom. Okay, so I've got all those organized there. Now I need to go ahead and mix my honey glaze. My honey glaze, which is the light yellow glaze, looks like a very dark brown glaze. So don't get alarmed looking at that color. Noisy time. Let's see. Let me leave the olive trays first, because I do them in 2 parts. When that section is a little bit dry, then I can glaze the other section, the other half of it. Also, my bucket is straight and level. I can go ahead and glaze the bottom half of these mugs. Don't you ever sleep? I do sleep. I sleep very well. Went to bed at around 11, woke up at 7. Well, I woke up at 6:30, so I got a good 8 hours of sleep. How much more do I need to sleep? So what I'm glazing right now, this dark brown. I'm so productive. I don't think so. I'm very productive because I sleep. Maybe that's the reason why. Okay, so that's the honey glaze. So the color I'm glazing, I know it looks like a very ugly dark brown color, but that is the honey colored, the light yellow color that I do. I just finished glazing all the grays. Good morning, Charles. So I'm finally glazing and doing a live video while I glaze. So I'm going to keep coming in and out of screenshots, and it's going to be noisy every now and then, but you all asked for it, so there it is. I am doing olive trays as well, so one half of them is done. I'm just going to go ahead and glaze the other half. And once it's glazed, you won't be able to tell the overlap of these. Just a spot. Here we go. So that's one thing which is a little different about glazing compared to painting. Oh, by the way, these are the new you don't have volume on. What color is that, please? That's a honey color. So these are the new discs I'm trying out. I did the last ones with a single hole in between, so these have 3 different size holes in the center. So I'll give you an option of dizzing out different thicknesses. And I wanted to do this even earlier, but I couldn't diz very well out of it because the positions of the hole, but now I think I might have it right. So we'll see. I'm going to test them out before I list them. Thank you, Wendy, for mentioning. Yes, they are my honey glaze. And yes, if you have my volume down, you cannot, I'm not typing in, so you cannot hear me. And I just finished glazing the gray, and these are all the honey pieces. Next I'm going to do the green, then the blue, then the purple. That's the order in which I glaze all the pieces. So earlier, if you watched my stream, you would have seen I rearranged all my pieces in the order that I wanted to glaze. Patricia, Patricia has quite a collection of my work, right? I hope there's no other pending order of yours in the queue. Yeah, my hands get really messy during this process, so that's the reason why I don't like to type anything. So Wendy can be my typing assistant. She can type up messages. Put Wendy to work. So some of these are extras, but it's fine. I'm going to try to fit everything in this firing. How about that? This board is all complete, so it will go in the kiln firing room. I'm back. You'll be happy to type if you pay me with ceramics. Okay. Wendy, you're always looking for a side gig to earn extra money. What do you need more money for? You want to buy more fiber tools? You want to get a loom? Yes. So when the pieces get fired at 2200 Fahrenheit, and basically the brown color that you're seeing on this is a mix of red iron oxide and other stuff, but red iron oxide is actually the color, and red iron oxide is basically rust. So that's why it has that brownish, reddish brown color on it. But that, when it gets fired to that high temperature, turns into the honey color. More ceramics. Well, but I need more money. I need to earn a living doing this, right? Need to buy food for Casper. He doesn't get paid for people typing, right? Yeah, it's 2200 degrees to be exact. Hence, when people wonder whether the stuff can go in the oven or in the microwave and stuff, I'm like, it's been through some seriously high temperatures and the clay is completely vitrified. It can totally go in the oven. So it's really not, to be correct, it's not a factor of how high you fire something, whether it can go in the oven or not. It's more got to do with whether the clay is completely vitrified, which means it's completely cooked and it is basically fired to the extent that it is waterproof. It's not going to leak, because clay is porous actually. But if you have fired it to its full expected temperature, it's supposed to completely seal the glaze, and the glaze needs to be a good fit as well, so that when you have coffee in your mug, it's not seeping out slowly. So you'll occasionally see there are pieces out there. I have noticed, in fact, I have some pieces in my collection from other potters whose work I like, but sometimes there are pieces which go by and they are not completely fired. So those just become decoration pieces, like raku pieces, for example, right? Raku pieces also go through very high temperatures, but the clay does not get vitrified, and that's why raku is not recommended for functional work. I don't think I've come across any potter which claims that raku is functional. It is only a decorative piece of pottery. You cannot put flowers in it with water in it or drink coffee out of it. Yes, I photograph exactly. That's like the biggest thing. If I get an assistant who's willing to get paid in pottery, which will be great, uh, the things they need to do is one, clean the studio on a regular basis. It's going to be hard work. So Wendy, start taking notes as to what will be required to get my pottery in exchange. Cleaning the studio, uh, loading, unloading the kiln, that I can do. That's fine. But as soon as I unload, all the pieces photographed, inventoried, put on the website, what's available, and the orders I need to ship out, pack them and ship them out. And of course, during my live chats, type and chat with people. Casper is still learning to hold things, yes. And Casper does not like this. There are 2 times when he doesn't like being in the studio. One is when I'm glazing, because he does not care for the sound of the drill machine. Actually, any extreme loud sounds is what he doesn't care for. He just goes like, I'm fine, I'm just gonna sleep upstairs. This is not fun. He has joined me occasionally while I'm glazing, but not very often. And the other time he doesn't like being here is when I'm extruding clay. Especially when I'm prepping the clay to be extruded, because I take a big block of clay and I smash it on the table and it's like a very loud sound. He just walks away. He's like, that's freaking crazy. Yes, he works for Kibbles, that's for sure. And I did not mark which of the honey dishes had to go in this firing. I hate that. So let me at least make a mark on the green ones, which absolutely have to go in this firing. I guess I'll have to put all the honey ones in the firing. Okay, so now all the honey mugs, honey glaze mugs and pieces are all glazed. Time to wipe down the table and move on to the next glaze, which is green. And I am glazing one special mug, which is kind of an experiment. Someone requested it, but a friend requested it, but she wanted it in a different kind of thing. So I'm doing actually something different than what she even requested. So it's not even what she wants really, but it's kind of piqued an idea which I'm curious to test out. So that's going to be this big jumbo mug, and no harm trying it out, right? And seeing whether it works. just mix this up. Okay, so that's another second part of the special mug that's getting glazed. You'll find out only once it's done whether what it is. So I'm not saying anything now. Oh, my niece is messaging me. Give me a second. I will send her a link if she wants to watch me on YouTube, because she is very crafty and I think she'll enjoy watching this. So okay, so that's the link. Copy link. Okay, so now everyone keep the chat PG-9. Not that this also always isn't PG-9, but still. Okay, so that was just one of the experiment things that I was doing. Not going to talk about that much, but the next glaze is the green glaze. I have more olive trays. These are going to be green and it has a blue colored accent on it. And these mugs are all green. So let me start moving that whole board up here. Casper does work for Kiln, that's for sure. I think Casper works more for treats than Kiln. And these are all fully green. This is a special mug again, which is my anniversary mug. My 15-year anniversary mug, which happened 2 years back. But one of my special customers and Patreon supporters, she broke her 15-year mug. 15-year anniversary mug. So I decided I'll make her a replacement, because these were limited edition. No intention of making them again, but for some people it's okay. It's okay to do it. Special customers. Okay. The next glaze is green. So I'm going to be noisy again, mixing up the green glaze. back. Glaze have been mixed with the drill machine, that's why it's so noisy. And time to glaze the olive trays. I do glaze them in two sections. All the rest of the stuff will just get dipped in the green glaze. So the green glaze has a slight green tinge to it, so it doesn't again look like the actual green glaze it's going to be, because of the same reasons that we discussed before. It still kind of looks just gray. So the gray, blue and the green glaze look almost identical in their wet glaze form. Hence, labeling buckets helps a lot. That's a lot of green mugs. Do I need that many green mugs? According to my notes, I do. Okay, and then I have these guys. I have this one small little tray. It's only a small dish for holding your knitting notions of your cookie. And of course we have the big knitted trays. This is for an order. So okay, and now let me do the olive trays. I'm going to do the second half, which is basically this part of it is going to get glazed. There we go. And sometimes that happens. And you break your piece while you're glazing it. So out it goes in the trash. Good for nothing. It usually happens with those because they are 3 feet compared to 2 feet, like a flat bottom pieces that I'm used to. So now with those dizzes, it's like I have to balance the whole piece on 3 feet, which gets a little tricky when I'm glazing it. But that's the reason why you glaze more than one piece than you need. Because stuff breaks in the process while loading the kiln. Isn't it fun watching this stuff live and seeing me drop pieces and break them? These are all the small knit dishes that I'm glazing. I was running low on them, so if they get into the kiln and this firing, then there'll be more in stock. I think I have currently like maybe 15 of them in stock, which is clearly not enough. So green, and then the next I have blue, and then purple. Foreign objects sticking onto the piece have to be removed. Everyone has gotten so quiet. Is it because I said to keep the chat PG-9? I don't think my niece is not chatting on the channel, so I don't think she is online. She's not on Facebook, but she does watch a lot of in the YouTube videos, and she is very crafty and very talented, and she loves watching YouTube videos and learning new things and then trying it herself. Kind of like me. So that's why I invited her to come see me work live. They have visited once here, and at that time it was such a short trip and I was not well at all. I couldn't work in the studio much, so I couldn't really play with them in the studio, which I really wanted to do. You know, stuff happens. Okay, time to take this shelf into the kiln, and I will be back. Let's not drop these. Check in with her. we'll have only one of the green 3-hole discs because I broke one of them while glazing. Time is it? Is it 10:20? Maybe I still can. My hope was to finish glazing by 10:30 and start the firing before noon. I think I can still start the firing. It's going to take me another half an hour to finish glazing. So hopefully it'll be fine. Fine. Hi Hasika. I am actually glazing my pottery, so I'm glad you could join me live on my live video. So I just finished glazing the green mugs and now I'm going to be glazing the blue ones. For that I need to move the blue mugs out here. So some big mugs. You're excited to see me? I'm so excited you could join me. If you want, next time whenever I go live and I'm doing pottery or glazing in the studio or doing my knitting and weaving or spinning, I will invite you. So then you can watch all my videos like you watch all the other videos. And I have so many other videos on YouTube, Rasika, so you can watch Bade Papa as well. I know you watch a lot of other videos. So, okay, I need to mix the blue glaze, so I'm going to be noisy, but I'll be right back. When I mix glazes, it becomes very noisy. That's purple. I don't want purple, I want blue. Is that blue? Oh, that is honey. I think this is blue. I hope this is blue. Okay, I'm gonna be a little noisy and I'll be right back. So I was mixing the blue color glaze And now I'm going to be putting the blue color glaze on all these mugs. That's what I'm doing. And then after I'm done glazing all the pieces, I will be putting them in the kiln and then firing them, and then on Sunday night I can then remove them from the kiln. So now I'm going to just dip them in the bucket of glaze. So you see it's all like just plain white. And now it still kind of looks like I didn't do anything to it. It has just like a slight gray color on it, but actually that's going to be a bright blue colored glaze. So it all looks gray in color when I'm glazing, but afterwards it's all good. So I'm doing all the glazing. So I'm just dipping them in the bucket of glaze. I also have small mugs. And I also have some trays, some olive trays that I'm doing with some patterns and designs on them. What I need is Hasika to come and help me in the studio. So Hasika, if you have any questions, you can ask me during the live video and I can answer. If you want to see something, you just let me know. So see, these are the small dishes with the knitting pattern on them, and that's what I'm glazing. These are all going to be blue in color too. Can you see my bucket? Sure, it's a 5-gallon Home Depot bucket. I can show it to you if you would like to see. So let me see if I can switch the camera view so you can see what I'm doing exactly. So can you see the 5-gallon bucket there? I know the view is kind of obstructed. I don't want to move the camera too much. So this is my bucket out here. And it's basically standing on top of another bucket, so I'm not bending down all the time and breaking my back doing so. So I can just stand straight upright, put it in the bucket and get the piece out. I guess that's more exciting to watch than me just putting the buckets on top. How did I do the knitting pattern? So my niece is asking, how did I do the knitting pattern? So what I do is I carve the knitting pattern in the opposite direction, in the opposite pattern that I want the pattern to be. And I carve it in such a way that when I push clay into it, it actually looks like knitting. So that's how it's done. But Hasika, you can be in on the family secret, right? When you come here and visit, I'll show you exactly how it is done. Somebody needs to be doing this after me, so you can know all the secrets, right? Much better view? Okay, I'm glad. Thanks for pointing that out, Charles, because I've not done a glazing video before, so I have no idea what people would rather see. A table full of pots or me dipping stuff in a bucket. So this is that special mug it's going to get another layer of something on it. So as you can see, it's going to be like a self-striping mug, but the colors and everything is a little different on this one. Sometimes you just have to try something for kicks, right? So let me get my niece's approval. So is this view better, Hasika? So she's on YouTube, so people on Facebook, you cannot see her chats, but I can. So yeah, Hasika, you enjoyed this view better. She's laughing. I found that there was some weird thing inside the mug, which I don't want it to be in the mug, because if it is, then it won't fire properly, and then you won't be able to, I won't be able to sell it. So that was that. Now back to, so what I'm doing, so the pink color that you see at the bottom of my mugs, that is the wax I put down below so that the glaze doesn't stick to it. Like the glaze has stuck on the rest of the mug, right? But you can see it's not sticking at the bottom. And the reason is that because I put that wax there. Am I going to polish soon? What do you mean by polish, Hasika? So I'm not smoothing the bottom of the mug, if that's what you mean. I'm just wiping off. Sometimes there's a little bit of drops still left of the glaze underneath. I'm just wiping them off and cleaning them. And then they will go in the kiln. And in the kiln they'll get fired, and then they will look like the mugs that you have in your house. This is a nice size mug for you, Hasika. It's not too big. No, I don't polish the mugs. So when I glaze the mugs, when I put them in the kiln, they become all that shiny glaze on it. And then after that, I will go ahead and I'll smoothen the bottom of the mugs. Is that what you mean by polish? So that's what I do then. Yeah, so making it shiny, that happens in the kiln. That's all. When the firing happens, all this glaze that I'm putting on top, that turns into like a glass-like material, which is what makes it shiny. Such wonderful questions. Something that I see inside this. That there. Yeah, so on Sunday evening, I will be removing them, because now they are going to go in the kiln, and in the kiln, the pieces are going to fire And you know how your oven, when you're baking, you set it at like 350 degrees or 400 degrees. Um, in the kiln, all the pieces, when they go in, they actually get fired all the way up to 2200 degree Fahrenheit. So imagine how much more hotter than your oven it is. So what I'm doing right now is, now that I dip the piece in glaze, on the pink surface, which is the wax, I don't want any glaze to be there. So I'm using a wet sponge, and you can see there are just very slight dots of glaze on it. The glaze has stuck on the rest of the piece, which is what I want, but on the very bottom of it, it has a little bit, so I'm just going to wipe that off, because if there is glaze left at the bottom of the piece, it will get stuck on my shelf. So now it's nice and clean, and it has my name there. Which way? That way. So that is going to go in the kiln. Okay. After this last piece, the next color I'm going to do is purple. There was somebody who was asking for a purple mug. I don't know if they placed an order. I will still glaze. I know I'm glazing 2 extra purple mugs in this, but let me just check. Yes, the new order has arrived. Let me make sure. Yeah, it's the purple mug. So I'm going to go ahead and glaze an extra purple mug for them. I think well, there are 4. And how many did I need for orders? I needed 2 for orders, and I'm glazing 4. So I have 2 extras. Let me put 1 extra purple mug. So see, if you want me to fire a mug of your choice to go in the kiln and you want it shipped out by next week, right now is the time to order. So that way I'll make sure that it is going in the kiln and it will get fired then. So that's going to be purple, and then I have a whole bunch of other purple mugs. These are all going to get glazed. Purple, 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 purple. Look at the number of purple mugs. It's nuts. There are going to be a lot of purple mugs. So looks like in this firing there'll be more purple mugs than any other mug. Now I hope I have enough purple glaze. I think I do. I think I made a new batch of purple glaze. Heavy buckets. Okay, the purple glaze bucket is like filled to the top. It's so heavy. but we'll try to make it work. Okay, glaze is super thick. How do I make the glaze? I'll let you know. I'll be right back. Let me wash up this mug, fill up some water in that, and then I will let you know. I need to thin down the glaze because it's very thick. So I'm going to just fix that right now, and then Hasika, I will answer your question as to how I make my glazes. Okay, finally. I still think it is thick, but we will make it work, and it's a very heavy part. So, how do I make my glazes? So, glazes is kind of like not kind of, it is chemistry, where it is mixing different materials together in order to make your glaze. Now, the main ingredient of a glaze, it's kind of like a recipe that you make. Hasika, you have started cooking, so you know how important it is to follow a recipe, right? In cooking, if you put one ingredient a little bit more or a little less, sometimes it doesn't make a difference. But then there are some very important ingredients in cooking, like if you don't want something to be spicy and you put a lot of chili in it, you can't eat it. And or if you put too much salt in it, you can't eat it. So there is a certain balance. You can kind of increase and decrease things a little bit to make it work for you, right? So that's how recipes for cooking work. They kind of work the same way for glazes as well, but it needs to be a little bit more exact. And the reason is because of the process that goes into making a glaze. Now, one of the main ingredients in glaze is silica. And what is silica is kind of like, it's like very fine sand. And it's a special kind of sand which when you heat up to that very high temperature, it becomes glass, right? So that is one of the ingredients, because the glaze on a mug, if you look at my mugs which are there in your house, you can see that it has that shiny surface on it. And that shiny surface is basically all that silica that has melted on top of the pot. So it makes a nice surface, nice shiny surface, like you were saying. And you can use it in the dishwasher, you can eat and drink out of it. and the mug doesn't get dirty. It cleans right off because it's that nice shiny glass-like surface. The other ingredients that need to go in are things that will make the glaze stick on your clay body. If you just put silica on it, it will just kind of fall off. So it needs to kind of stay on it. So that those are other materials that are added. Also, when you just fire the piece with only plain silica, it might just melt and completely come off from your piece while it is in the kiln and collect on your shelf and just ruin your shelf, ruin your piece, and all of that. So then you need another chemical added to it, which will stabilize the glaze and make sure that it stays on top of the piece only and doesn't slide down. So it's kind of like a stabilizer. So that's another ingredient that goes in. Then there are other ingredients that can be added to it to, like, you must have seen some glazes which don't look so shiny. They look very matte. Let me show you an example. So, like you see this glaze out here, this yellow glaze, it's a very shiny glaze. So that has one thing. But if I wanted to create a glaze that was very matte and not shiny, like you can see the inside of it, it's not that shiny. You add another ingredient to it. So that makes it not so shiny. Another option. Then if you want to add color, then you add other ingredients. Like for the honey color that I just showed you, for that you have to add red iron oxide, which is basically rust that you see on old iron and like maybe some of your garden tools or stuff. So that's all red iron oxide, which needs to be added to the glaze so that when it melts, it looks all brown when I was glazing it, but once it gets fired, it turns into the yellow color. And for like that, for every color there's a different material you add. Like for blue I add cobalt carbonate, for green I add copper carbonate, and sometimes you mix the two colors together to get a different shade. So it's a lot of experimenting like that to see which color that you want. So I do a lot of the glaze testings. I make all the glazes myself, so I know exactly what goes in them. And unlike cooking, what's really important is that you mix all of these ingredients in the exact amount, as exact as you can. Because if you don't, then either your glaze will just slip out, or the color will be totally different, or your surface will not be so shiny if you want it shiny, or if you don't want it shiny, then it will be very shiny. It all has to be a perfect match. And if it isn't, also what can happen is that your piece you might not be able to use it for eating and drinking out of. And another very important thing is not just making the glaze recipe, and there is also how do you apply it on the pieces, like how I am applying it. Like the way I have mixed my glaze, it's good for dipping into a bucket and glazing, but this kind of glaze is not that good for painting on with a brush. So for that you have to do a different kind of glaze recipe. So with that you have to add something else to your glaze. So like you see the red part in this bowl that I had here. So the yellow part is dipped on, but the red part is painted on. For that the glaze doesn't look like that, it looks different. And there are different ingredients added to that glaze so that I can paint on with a brush. So that's another different thing. So depending on the kind of look you want, how you want to apply it, your glaze recipe might change. And of course, then you have to fire it correctly to the right temperature, because every clay body has a particular temperature at which it needs to be fired, and your glaze needs to match your clay, and all of that needs to match the firing temperature of your kiln so that your piece turns out perfect. So that's the way it is done. I hope that answers your question as to how I make my glazes. So people on Facebook who are wondering who I'm talking to, it's my niece who's also, she's on YouTube watching me live, and that was a question, how do I make my glazes? So that was the last purple piece that I had to glaze, and now I need to wipe everything down and then load up everything in the kiln. Hands are all wet. So as you can see, glazing can be a little bit of a messy job, but you can make some really cool pieces. Okay, let's take the purple mugs. Now we know we got another order of the purple mug, so that's going to go in the kiln for sure. And I will wait for another half an hour or so before I load up the kiln. I don't like to put the pieces on like exactly when they are right after they are glazed. They're just too wet. It just makes it easier to handle them if they are on the drier side. So I'll just wait for some time till they are ready. But then I'll be glazing, I'll be putting them in the kiln and then firing the kiln. Maybe Hasika, is anyone else interested in watching me load up the kiln? I've done that a few times, I think. So especially when the pieces are a little bit dry, then if I have any tong marks or anything on it, I can kind of clean them a lot easier if the pieces are on the drier side than on the wetter side right now. So that's another good reason to wait for at least an hour or so after I have glazed them. Plus, it's not good to fire your pieces with so much moisture in them, because there are, after all, electrical elements in them and they would get oxidized. So if you want your kiln elements to last a long time, you kind of want to make sure that your pieces are not very wet going in the kiln. Alright, so that was all done. Going to wipe my table down so it's all clean. And that is all done. Alright, hope you all had fun. I'm going to sign off and then I will load up the kiln later on. So thank you very much for joining me, and thank you special guest Hasika for all your wonderful questions. And I will see y'all next time. Bye.